Hello, welcome to the Build Yourself Laboratory. So here we're going to show how to create a Scratch program that displays patterns on the screen, which a Mu controller can read and then control the state of servo output devices. Okay, so let's start by going on the web to scratch.mit.edu. This is the website at MIT for the program Scratch, which is a very popular learning language developed at MIT. Okay, once you get there, you should see a screen like this. You can log in, create your own account. That's a good idea, so you can store your files and have access to them. So first thing we're going to do is create a new program. And we're going to import some patterns, two patterns in particular. The Mu will read one pattern and position a servo accordingly, and then it will read a second pattern and move the servo to a different position. Okay. So let's do that. Let's start by importing our costumes. So we want to change these cats to a black triangle and a black square. So we'll open up our PowerPoint presentation and we'll right-click on the square, and then we're going to save it as a picture. It will be saved actually as a PNG. It's a very good idea to name your files descriptively. So we'll call this Mu square. And we're going to save it to the desktop so it's really easy to find. We can delete it later. So we'll call that Mu square. And then we're going to import the next one by right-clicking on the triangle and save picture as, and we're going to call this Mu triangle. Mu dash triangle dot PNG. Okay. So now we have two PNG images stored on our desktop. We can go back to our Scratch project and we can click on the folder. We'll go to the desktop and we'll click on the Mu files that we just created. There's Mu triangle, open. We got the first triangle, and then we'll click on Mu rectangle or Mu square, and we'll open that. Okay, now we can delete our cats. We don't need those. So we have the two patterns that we're going to be using to control our Mu. That is, the Mu will read these patterns and, based on the pattern, set the position of the servo. Servo is going to be in three positions: full right, middle position, and full left. Servo can turn 180 degrees. So basically, you have 0 degrees, 90 degrees, and 180 degrees. Okay, now comes the really fun part. We're going to go to the scripts. And the first thing we want to generally do in almost every program is initialize. So when the green flag is clicked, that means the Scratch program is started. First thing we want to do is we're going to shrink our patterns just a little bit. We don't need them quite so big. That'll give us the next, that'll give us more space on the screen to create other designs if we want. So if we double click on this, we should see the square shrink by 50%, okay? Instead of putting the square in the center of the screen, let's put it way at the top. We'll have the Mu, we'll mount the Mu so it can focus on this square right at the top. That gives us the whole screen to play with to make other things happen. So in order to do that, we're gonna go to the motion section and we're gonna position this to the upper right corner. So if we put our mouse at the upper right corner, you can read the X and Y positions down here. And you'll see X is 180, 190 roughly, and Y is 150. So that's 190 for X and 150 roughly for Y. So the positioning, the coordinates of this screen, XY coordinates, 0, 0 is roughly the center, and then it goes minus roughly 220 degrees, 220 units to the left, and plus 220 units to the right. And it goes up 175 roughly to the top, and minus Y, the very bottom, is about minus 170. Okay, so that now if we double click this, the square moves up at the top. That's a little bit too high, so let's move this down to maybe 130. See how that looks. Okay, that's a little better, right in the corner. So now we've initialized, and first thing we want to do is switch to costume triangle. I happen to know that the triangle is the center position for the servo. That is, when the mu sees a triangle, it positions the servo to 90 degrees. Okay, so now when we double click, it switches to a triangle. Okay, so we're gonna, in our robot, we're gonna use a sensor. In this case, we're gonna use a sensor that when you press a button or when you put a quarter in the coin slot, it will press a key. So we have to detect when a key is pressed. So let's go to control functions, and we'll come down here, and excuse me, let's go to events. So when any key is pressed, any key, so that way we can design our coin sensor or a button pusher so that when it's pushed or the coin is deposited, a mechanism will press one of the keys. Okay, when any key is pressed, first of all, let's make a sound. So we'll go to sound devices and we'll just play meow. Okay, so when any key is pressed, I'm going to press the spacebar right now, and you hear the meow played. So it's good to have some sound feedback. We can change the sound if we like by just going to the library, and let's just pick some really quick one. Okay, so we'll just use this Afro string, and let's click on another one that's real short, just enough so we recognize which pattern we have an audio feedback that tells us. See what this drum sounds like. Boom. Okay, so let's put the drum there, and we can delete the meow. Okay, so now if we want to play the sound, we'll just, let's say when any key is pressed, we're going to press a drum. Okay, and then we're going to switch to a costume, switch to costume square, mu square from the triangle. Okay, so that will turn the servo in one direction, and then let's wait for, let's say we want something to happen for about 3 seconds. So we'll wait for 3 seconds, and then we can basically duplicate this. If you click on, let's see, if we click here somewhere, let's just, there's a way to duplicate this, but it's tricky where you have to click in order to get that duplicate process, that duplicate to work. All right, so let's just recreate it, play sound again. And this time, instead of the drum, we're gonna switch back to the Afro string. We're gonna switch costumes back to the triangle to stop it. And then that's all we need to do. And then we can wait for key to be pressed to start the whole robot again. Okay, so let's see what happens when we do that. So we're going to click the green flag, and notice the triangles in the upper right corner. Now when we press any key, it plays the drum. Oh, that drum is way too long. And then it plays the Afro string. So let's go back to let's find another drum, a drum sound that's just one beat. What is that? Real quick. Maybe there's a pop here. I think there's a pop that goes, or hey.
Hey.
Hey, that's good. Okay, we'll put hey up there instead of the drum. That means we have to go back to the scripts and change the drum to hey. Okay, now let's try it. I think that will work better. The triangle goes when we start the program. We'll press any key. Says hey, waits 3 seconds, plays the Afro string sound, and goes back to triangle. So there you have it. There's a Scratch project that controls the patterns on the screen, which the Mu can read, and in turn control the position of a servo. Okay, good luck. Onward to the planet Pluto and beyond.